Hi guys, Gareth here from Heartfelt Horsemanship, and we did a video a while back in the middle of a very rainy period. We didn't really get good quality video. A lot of people complained about it being dark, and they loved the topic, but they asked me to redo it. So I'm going to go through might be a little different to what I spoke about because that was very well scripted. I'm just taking this off the cuff. But you'll hear a lot of very good horsemen talk about how no troubled horse was ever fixed by pulling it back on two reins, and I don't think a lot of riders really get what that means, so I want to expand on that a little bit. We never pick up on two reins to stop a horse. The reason for that has everything to do with physics. If you didn't study physics in school, you can go look up. Nowadays we've got Google, so we can get even more educated than we did in school. Newton's first law of thermodynamics, or laws of physics, basic laws of physics, first law is energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. So when you are on a horse and it is a runaway, that galloping energy can't just be destroyed when you pick up on two reins. What that actually ends up what happens with that energy, it gets transformed into another form of energy. So you pick up on both sides of the horse's face, that energy gets transformed into that shape, which is a buck. And that is why in the world where people are taught to pull back on two reins to stop a horse, that is such a common event. Bucking is so common in the horse industry, and it's why horse riding is so unsafe. And of course we hear the 5 most dangerous words in the English language. I've always done it this way. Everyone's done it this way. How can it be wrong? And the simple answer is the people that have always done it that way are also the same people that tell you, the hospital will get back on the horse. And they have no concern for safety. And it is the single biggest reason why horse riding should be a nice, calm connection to a horse is even more dangerous than MotoGP, where they're flying around on motorbikes at 300 kilometers an hour. Now, if you take that same horse galloping away and you only pick up on one side of the horse's face, you get a sharp turn. Now, you've probably still got a good chance of sliding off the side of the horse if you still have to do that sharp turn. But it's better than going over the horse's head if they come to an abrupt buck and you go flying at a gallop. Now, there is a way to get it that you don't have to go flying over the horse's head or flying off the side of the horse. If you put in the effort of putting in earlier phases, your horse will start coming back to you even when it's running away at a gallop and it's nervous. You've practiced this stuff enough that the horse starts responding from your seat. So we do what we call anti-flight checks, where every ride, even on my best horse, I'll start with the seat and then come around and do the movement that I would normally bend my horse to a stop. Even though I'm standing still, my anti-flight checks I do as a standstill. It's to build muscle memory on myself and my horse. Now I know some people don't believe in muscle memory. Let's say we're building neural pathways. That becomes an automatic response for a horse when they feel my seat come down. So even when they're nervous and they're not all that thinking, those little reminders start coming back in. And if you practice that a lot, your horse is going to be far more likely to stop before you get into the full-on turnaround. The other aspect of that is if you're working on relaxation, which we focus on a lot, then your horse is never going to get to that frame of mind where it loses its mind completely and stops thinking. Now, we say we never pick up on two reins to stop or slow down a horse. And everyone says, well, I want to be able to ride, let's say dressage, and I want to be able to stop straight, or I want to be able to ride reining, and I need my horse to stop straight. I don't want to turn around every time I stop. If you're practicing this, when you get to the point of your normal riding, your stop looks something like that. because you put in the seat before they get to the bend. And a horse is always trying to train us to leave the reins alone. So if we put that in first, and they're like, ah, if I answer there, they're going to leave my reins alone and I'll stop. So let's see that from a trot. I come in here, sit down, my horse will stop. Straight. So while they're learning it, you might occasionally have to pick up on one rein. But when I'm training horses that come to us for training, literally within the 3rd hour, they're stopping off seat because I'm consistent about using my seat before rein. What you normally find people doing is they'll ride on a rein like this, and they will use their seat, but they'll use their reins at the same time. If you use your reins at the same time as your seat becomes meaningless to the horse. It's known as trace learning, where animals, including humans, will learn the strongest cue, the firmest cue first. So if you apply seat and rein at the same time, they're only going to really learn the rein. So that is one of the pitfalls of picking up on reins constantly. So we do a lot of our riding on a casual rein, all the way there. That's a loose rein. That's a finesse rein. Anything in between is a BS rein. So 75% of my riding is on a loose rein. That means my horse gets to respond to my seat far more and learn that my seat means something. The other problem with riding a full session on contact is that there's no dynamic in when you put on a cue. So the turkey's got a contact, and if I put on a cue now, there's less of a change than when I go from this completely loose and I pick up. See how much more responsive he is. Because if you hold a constant pressure, let's say you've got 4 ounces of pressure on that rein, and you add another ounce, it's less noticeable to a horse than it goes from no pressure on the rein to 5 ounces, slowly, progressively. There's a urban legend about the experiment with frogs, and yes, I know it's not a real experiment, but it's still a very good indication of why we don't want to ride on a constant heavy rein. We dull a horse if we're riding a constant contact rein. So the experiment is that of, it's called the boiling frog, and the boiling frog theory, where if you take a frog and you put it in hot water, it will jump out straight away. But if you take a frog and put it in lukewarm water and slowly escalate the heat, the frog will boil itself to death. And that is what happens when you have a constant contact. You're slowly boiling your horse's responsiveness to death. So we encourage people, every single ride, 75% of your ride should be what we call foundation riding, some loose rein, and as you progress you can build up to 25%. So when your horse is first starting to learn, they're going to get really anxious and they're going to get dull quickly. If you immediately go to, let's say, the horse's first ride, 75% loose rein, and go straight to 25% on contact. What I normally do is my horse's first month is entirely on a loose rein. First 30 hours, so you guys don't ride every day like we do necessarily, so rather keep a logbook of hours. In that 30 to 60 hours, you will start maybe picking up 5 to 10%, 5% at the start of your next 30 hours, and towards the end 10%. That third month is when we start working towards that 25% when you can work on something. Now I normally will do the 75% from the beginning of my ride and then work on the finesse stuff for the balance of the time. But I have started now giving, when a horse gets a concept great, I'll go back to my foundation ridings for a few minutes, sharpen up my responses, and then carry on with my, so it might be 60% of my ride at the start will be foundations on a loose rein. Then I'll do 10% of my time working on something with finesse rein. Horse gets the concept, I'll go back to foundation riding for another 10%. So mix it up, so it's getting a chance to just relax on the loose rein and be able to feel more of the difference. If you guys have any questions regarding this, please drop us a message. One of the things that people think that we do when they see us riding on a loose rein is they assume we must be starting a horse on a tight rein and then moving to a loose rein once the horse is staying straight. That is not what we do. We use patterns to build straightness on a horse. So if I wanted to, for example, I'll try and keep you guys in line of sight. There's a pole over there, and I want to ride my horse to that pole on a loose rein. I just keep my focus on that pole and my horse stays straight until I ask it to go off. I'll give it a release. Forward. Same thing coming back. Coming back. I'll get my focus set up on the camera and keep the horse straight with as few corrections as possible. Only once my horse stays straight in the direction I send them, or straight on a circle when I send them on a loose rein, with as few corrections as possible, is when I'll pick up and work on finesse, because that I'm asking for more of a shape. If we start off micromanaging every little movement, you will never get to the point of having a horse stay straight, because it's that trace learning. Right now, this trace learning is the firmest cue was me correcting with my legs on it. If I'm correcting with this, they're never going to think about just managing their own direction. Great guys, please like and share the videos and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you.